evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening. And don't forget, the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. Your old friend Virgil back once again with another amazing installment of the podcast. And today we don't have one but two co-hosts, very special guests in Mama Beth. Say hi, Mark. Say hi, Mama Beth.
Hi.
Hi.
So I got to ask right off the front, how do you like the name Mama Beth? The nickname has stuck like crazy.
I didn't like it to begin with. The kids started calling me it last season, and I was like, can't I be like Aunt Beth or something, not Mama Beth? And I remember Zoe looking at me and going, no, it's Mama Beth, and it's just going to stay. So literally they call me Mama Beth. So and now you've decided to call me it too. Eric calls me it. Candace calls me it. I don't know that I've ever heard Mark call me it.
I wouldn't
but it's a little strange. It's a little strange.
It's one of those things for you guys who don't know. Beth runs our concession lobby. She's our head manager in the concession lobby. And she's become so much more than that, not just to the young crew, but to the organization in general. And she's been really on the front lines with opening up what this company can do, which has been such a blessing for us. And since she's been literally on the front lines of all this madness this year, we figured it would be an amazing perspective to get. But off the top, I do have to thank you so much for all the amazing work that you've done, not just this season, but when you were a dedicated fan, which we'll get into. But my daughter, Zoe, is on the concession crew. She is one of Beth's kids, if you will. And the guidance that she has given these kids is nothing short of breathtaking. And it's exactly what I had hoped when I dreamed of, quote unquote, raising my kids at the drive-in, is having this extension of the family, people that not only they can look to for work guidance, but literally life guidance. So I'll get that out of the way. You mean the world to us and to me personally. So thank you.
No, I thank you.
Oh, it's been amazing. So why don't you tell people, I know we got into it a little bit on your story podcast that we did when we first revved up the podcast, but why don't you let people know how long you've been coming to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater and how you became head manager at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater?
We came for the first year you guys did Universal Monsters. So we came and saw The Mummy and The Invisible Man. I had never been to a drive-in before. So Jeff actually brought me to the drive-in. And I remember being so nervous.
We should point out Jeff is, we have to say Beth's Jeff, not our
Yes.
Jeff.
They call him
That's
Papa
significant
Jeff
other.
now.
Of course.
They call him Papa Jeff, which he has adapted to very, very well. So he brought me to the drive-in. I was super, super nervous. I absolutely fell in love with it. And I think as we were leaving that night, I said, so what are they playing next weekend? And we came back next weekend and we were hooked. I was hooked. And then I'm going to say the following season, we bought a tent and we started camping. So we were literally there on the lot every weekend in our tent.
Yeah.
I want to say you reached out to me. It was after everything with the COVID and you said, hey, you want to come on and work, Tuesdays and Thursdays, like those oddball days that nobody else wanted to work. And I said, sure. So I came in as a concession staff last year. I kind of picked up other responsibilities while I was there as well. The kids really latched on to me, always looking for, guidance and things that they could do and how they could help me out. So I think from there, it just kind of fell into that management position that you and Jeff had offered me at the beginning of the season. And I was very, very thankful for it, that I was thought so highly of, that you guys would want me to be the manager of the concession stand.
Well, I think it's one of those situations from my memory. You became, and Jeff, your Jeff, became two of the faces that were staples. You were there all the time, even when we couldn't get our regular staff there. We're looking at, you guys there, dedicated, set up every single week. And I think we invited you to that crew party in 2019.
Yeah, it was a wild time.
Yeah, and it was.
So if you're ever invited to the postseason staff party,
be careful.
Free up your weekend summers.
Yeah,
the following
it might be
year.
a hook. But it was a no-brainer choice with all the cards that got dealt to us, not only with COVID, but how the business kind of shifted in general. And it's been awesome. So why don't you talk about your perspective this year as far as the crowds, the change from outdoor concessions to starting to let people in, and that whole shift?
I was excited for the stand to open up. The kids were very nervous because they never really had the stand open. So I think we did it when Bill Mosley was there, that November 1st with Harry, with Exhumed. We had opened up the stand and we had everybody in at the end of the year. And they were really excited, but I think they were a little nervous too. But that was really the only taste of it that they got. So I want to say this season, when did we open up the stand? It was around June, wasn't it? June 1st? And I remember Jeff saying, oh, the stand's going to open up. And the kids were literally sending me all these messages. We're going to get fired. We're not going to have a job. We don't know how to cook. We don't know how to run the fryers. And I'm like, you need to calm down. Like, you guys aren't going anywhere. That's part of my responsibility. I'll get you all trained behind the grills and the fryers and, running the popcorn machine and cleaning up and doing all this stuff and the maintenance on all the equipment and that. I had to teach them all this stuff,
Yeah.
And I just remember they were so nervous. And now I can't get them away from the grill top and the fryer.
That's crazy to think that was June, because now all the staff is like clockwork, on all the equipment.
Yeah. So now it's literally like, so who's going to run register tonight? And they all kind of look at me and I'm like, I'm not running register. But they love it now, and I can't get them away from cooking and coming up with ideas, and they work together so well. I couldn't ask for a better crew, especially considering their age. I mean, we range from like 16 to 19. I've said it multiple times. Working with them is no different than working with the kids in the childcare.
Take that for what you will, right?
It's really not. It's giving that guidance and that support. It's just giving it in a different way, if you understand what I'm saying. And I worked with kids for many years. It was just trying to figure out a different way to guide them and give them that guidance.
Yes, that's why I think it was the no-brainer as far as the management position, because that's really what management is. It's about being able to handle personalities. And in your case, or in most cases in any other theater that I've run, you're dealing with literally high school kids at a time that, anything can set them off. So it's not an easy task to take on. And I think you found the perfect approach. But the one thing that people love when they come into the concession lobby is the amazing specials. So do you have a process when it comes to the specials? Do you make them try them at home, test them out, have the kids try them? Where does the spark come from?
I think in the off season, what I did was I actually went back and I looked at old specials to see exactly what kind of worked. I know for myself, it was going back to like Andrew, who used to run the kitchen, his specials, and remembering the specials that I enjoyed having.
Yes.
And sometimes just taking them and reworking them a little bit. I think that for myself, running the kitchen, it was trying to make them simpler. So that way the line in the concession stand would move along. So people didn't have to wait maybe 15 or 20 minutes for a special. Everything was kind of put together. I think getting away from just a special burger every weekend, doing the special chicken nuggets or a chicken sandwich, or doing the universal monster mash in the crock pot versus putting it on a burger. I did that Troma event. What was it? The Shakespeare Shitstorm. And it was literally just
you're like, okay, I need to come up with a shit-themed edible concession.
Uh-huh. And I remember it was actually JT and Lisa came to me and she goes, they're doing this premiere. Like, we need something gross and disgusting. And I'm like, I will figure it out. I got you. And it was literally like just chopped up chicken and mashed potatoes and corn, because you have to have corn in there. I actually watched the trailer for the Shakespeare shitstorm, and that's where I got my inspiration from. And mixed up green food coloring in the turkey gravy to give it that kind of gross poop color. And people loved it. I would say that was probably one of the most popular specials that I had this season.
As unappetizing as it looked, I ate at least 3 of those puppies. It was delicious.
And with the photo op we had right outside the entrance to the snack bar, I'm surprised you sold food.
That stink that stayed for probably a good month that we couldn't get rid of.
Yes.
And right after the trauma event, we had that 8th grade dance. Those poor kids, it stunk so bad.
Oh my gosh. The adventures that we had this year, we really could write a book just on this year alone.
We could have a sitcom.
Yeah, truly.
That is something too. You mentioned keeping the line moving. That's a big challenge. I mean, I worked the cash register in the snack bar for years, and I always felt this tremendous pressure to ring everything up as fast as I could to keep that line moving. But the nature of the beast is when it's busy, it's a long line of people. And whether it's food prep or turnaround time or serving or whatever, our goal is to get people out of there while the food's still hot. But sometimes just the nature of physics and reality prevent that from being as fast as we'd ever like it to be.
Yep. And I always try and tell the kids not to rush. Like, don't rush just for the sake of rushing, because that's when we make mistakes and we, miss things, or we double charge somebody, and we don't want to see that happen. But yeah, definitely keeping that line moving. I think we kind of threw out the idea of maybe on those busier events, trying to get somebody out there with a tablet that can just do, maybe credit cards, checking people out, just to try and get the line moving. Because we saw that on Saturday. That line was incredible for our Tim Burton weekend on Saturday.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So when it comes to the last month in general, traditionally what I do as the booker is leave October pretty open, because naturally things will fall out. We have the most time to figure it out, and it's something we can shift things into. And for those people who want a little inside dirt, we had Zach Galligan booked to come back for Gremlins 1 and 2, which we had amazing success with, maybe 2 or 3 years ago at this point. But it fell out. Zach was busy with his schedule. So the thought was, let's find something that's family friendly, but still plays to the Mahoning crowd. And obviously, again, those of you guys in the know, we got access to the Disney Vaults this year, which allowed us to request Nightmare Before Christmas early. And we found out we could get it. So the weird world of Tim Burton was born, but I came to the staff and eventually Beth with the question of, okay, what do we play? We know we got Nightmare on Saturday. The idea for Friday was the Johnny Depp double with Edward Scissorhands and Sleepy Hollow. Kind of plays to our audience with Sleepy Hollow, a little edgy, and easier fare with Edward Scissorhands. So what was your thought, Beth?
My thought was Beetlejuice. I went back to that chamber event that we did last year, and Beetlejuice was just absolutely amazing. The people that came in costumes, I think it was a sellout too. It was like a Thursday.
It was close.
It was a really, really busy Thursday. And I said, do it. Let's do it. It will definitely bring the people in. And it definitely brought the people in.
and the only thought was like, we're going to have literally children out the who, because we're going to be doing Nightmare Before Christmas, incredibly rare screening. We want something that is going to be an easy kind of pill to swallow for the children. And Beetlejuice, it's one of those movies, even though it's insanely dark, I watched that so young and fell in love with it so young and found things in it that I loved that, kind of the adult stuff went over my head. And the amount of kids that we had that were so into Beetlejuice was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted it to do well, but what was your experience like on Saturday? For those who don't know, we had an unexpected sellout on Saturday night of Tim Burton weekend.
On Saturday night, that was incredible. I have no words, because I don't know that I was quite expecting it to be that big. I think it's nice because a lot of times I think we aim more towards that horror slasher kind of thing. So it was nice to see newcomers and families and kids there enjoying the atmosphere and the movies. There was a little boy that came in with his popper bucket, and he was so excited to get his refill of his popcorn and go out and watch the movie. It was just so sweet, you know? But the line in the concession stand, it started, I want to say probably about 6:30, and it ran until you heard that boom at the beginning of Beetlejuice. And then literally it was barren. And I had said to the kids, I said, I am just waiting for the applause round to start when everybody just exits out of the stand, because it just didn't stop. It was intermission level, like throughout the whole entire night.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. The line didn't stop throughout the whole entire first feature. We had cars coming in throughout the whole entire first feature. It was just never ending. I think what really helped was sharing out the specials early, sharing out the photo ops early, letting people know what we had in store for not just them, but their families. And, you know, it was the perfect storm. And as Jeff mentioned, as of right now, we're the only game in town as far as a drive-in goes. Most of the other drive-ins across the state have closed for the season. So it was perfection, but hats off to you for being able to balance that madness. That really was a wave that we didn't expect. I remember even going into the weekend, I'm like, maybe we should try to watch Payroll a little bit. And then afterwards, I'm just like, gosh, anybody who we could add, jump in, just jump in.
Absolutely.
I felt so terrible because I was, floating. So I was in and out of the snack bar trying to help where and when I could. And I realized I asked Rob how much is left in Nightmare Before Christmas with this huge line that was straight out the snack bar, almost all the way out to the entrance road. And he said, there's only 20 minutes left in this. And I looked and I'm like, yeah, that line is no shorter than it ever has been. And I looked at the snack bar staff busting their ass. And I said, they're not going to get a break tonight until this line is over. It was full bore the whole time. And Sandy had a huge line outside. I was struck dumber than usual at how busy we were after several weeks that were kind of lighter. As October rolls in, people have other Halloween things they do and it gets colder. People don't come out as much, but it was just like, I think Max in the snack bar said it was like he hadn't seen something like that since August.
Yeah, it was really, really nice.
I mean, and if anybody knows, like my soda refrigerators are on the outside of the stand. So I would be refilling soda in these little racks that we use and going out the back door of the stand and all the way around because I couldn't get out any other way. And to fill like the condiment table and make sure that, there were condiments out on the table. And I remember Mark looking at me going, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm like, I don't know.
I felt like I had any kind of grill skills so that I could jump in and replace somebody. But the only thing I could really do is replace whoever was doing the register.
And like I said, it was so weird because like they kept up on food. Like there wasn't a wait on chicken nuggets or chicken fingers, or even like I only did the drink special. I did the sandworm hot chocolate. And that's all we needed that weekend, because if I had done a food special, it would have been just complete and total madness, and sometimes you have to think about that too. Like when I'm thinking about a special going, okay, we've got 600 people. This has to be really easy for everybody to be able to do, and making sure that everybody knows how to make it. So that way, if that person isn't there, everybody knows how to jump in and be able to do it and be able to make it.
The plus of that weekend, even though we felt like it kind of caught us off guard, we got so much love. So many people who were coming for their last time of the year. And then after the fact, the reviews, not just for the theater, but the concession in general, specifically calling out how badass they were for getting through that line and making sure everybody was happy. So again, another crazy hats off.
It's time to stretch and fetch. See what's cooking at our refreshment counter. You'll find your favorite foods and beverages, plus many new goodies to tempt your appetite and add to your evening's pleasure. Everything's the finest quality. So treat yourself now.
Your attention, please. All new Hotshot electric in-car heaters have been installed for your comfort and convenience. Just insert heater through car window and turn on the switch. When leaving, please turn switch off and replace on speaker post. Warning, high voltage. For your own safety, do not attempt to repair or remove wires. Do not attempt to open heater unit. If you need assistance, please notify the theater box office or concession manager.
Before we jump into some of the traditional show fare, I know we have some voicemails. Why don't you give us your favorite event of this season? I know it's hard because this has seemed like a lifetime of a season. Even going back, kind of doing some financing stuff at the end of the year, I'm just like, God, that was this year? That seems like a lifetime ago.
My favorite event of the season. I have a hard time.
Memory, whatever it is.
I have a sub question too. Your favorite event as far as working the event and the experience you had, and then also if you were able to actually get out and watch any movies this season.
I did get out to watch movies this season. A couple. I went out and I watched Escape from New York, which I was absolutely thrilled for.
Yes, that's right.
It was one of the early Tunnel Vision Tuesdays, and I had to go out and watch and see that movie. I did get out to see The Tingler with Vincent Price, which, oh my gosh, that was absolutely amazing. And that set up with the honking of the horns and the lights on the screen. I love that movie. And I know it was like a collaboration between like Rob and Carl and a couple of other people. And it was just, that was just absolutely phenomenal being able to see that up on the screen. Cause I love Vincent Price. I think he's fantastic. As far as working an event this season, that one's hard. That one is so hard. I will say the trauma event is a lot of fun. I would probably go trauma. Trauma brings in some really strange people, but they were all so thankful that we held their event for them. And they are always so thankful. Even the year before when we had trauma, they are very, very thankful. And they are so appreciative of everything we do and everything we provide and the photo ops and the special food. And we wind up with a lot of like special needs as far as food, like vegan options, vegetarian options. And they're always just so thankful for it. And I think for myself, it's just seeing those people come in costume and people watching. We'll just say people watching.
Yeah. It's part of the gig. I say it. It's like we had a article posted in like the biggest Philadelphia area newspaper in like 2018 or 19 that was like Magnet for Strange. The Mahoning welcomes you to come and get weird. I'm just like, well, get ready, guys.
It's trauma weekend.
Yeah, that just opens up the gate. So on our last episode, we got into some spooky stories, memories of movies that really freaked us out. I guess it makes sense before we jump into these voicemails, which I take it might be some of our fans' stories. Do you have a memory, Mama Beth, of a movie on TV or theatrically or something like that that just flipped you out?
I wouldn't watch Child's Play as a child.
Oh my gosh, that's a great one. I totally forgot about that. I was the same way.
Chucky scared the shit out of me, which was funny because I had like tons of Barbies and all these different things, because, that's what you have. But that scared the crap out of me. And
I just not happening.
I still, even to this day, I don't know that I really have ever sat and watched that whole entire movie because it just scares the crap out of me.
It's all about the timing. That's what we got to on last podcast. Is like, if you see a movie at the right time, it doesn't matter how quote unquote good it is as far as it's made. If it's effective, it's just like, it sticks with you.
Yes, absolutely. And that is one that always sticks with me. So Child's Play, definitely.
There was a later Child's Play sequel, and I can never remember the title. They did Child's Play, and then they started getting into, Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, and they became more comedies than anything else.
Yeah.
But after Seed of Chucky, there was this much smaller in scale Child's Play film where it got back to just a woman in a wheelchair alone in a big house in a thunderstorm, and Chucky is loose and he's trying to kill her. And it was so creepy. So like, if you ever watch Child's Play, I would say follow it up with that one because it cuts the whole comedy aspect out of it, and it'll terrify you.
So Mark, what do we have in way of the voice messages? And I guess it makes sense to let people know what these voice messages are all about.
So if you go to our anchor.fm website, this is a way to listen to this podcast, and it's where we upload our podcast. there is URL would be www.anchor.fm/Mahoning Drive-In. And there's an option there to leave a message, leave a voice message. So once in a while, I mean, anytime you want to leave a voice message, we love it. Tell us the stories about your experiences at the Mahoning or any drive-in or drive-in memories or what drive-in you currently go to, anything like that. But in the last episode, we asked people to share their memories of their favorite scary movies. Now, I'm going to play these without ever having listened to them. So these could be people telling us how full of crap we are, or it could be people talking about.
Well, this will be fun.
Dear Mahoning Drive-In Radio, you're terrible. Thank you. Let's see. Drive safely. So here we go. First, we have our old pal, Albert Mariotti, left a voice message, and it goes a little something like this.
So I'm an 80s kid, and I guess it's obvious. I had Freddy Krueger nightmares all the time, and I loved them. I felt like I was in a Freddy Krueger movie. So I look forward to Freddy Krueger nightmares, and I had them throughout my childhood. I had them in the 90s as well, and even in the 2000s, in the late 2000s. It was 2007. My ex-girlfriend at the time, in the nightmare, pushed me off a cliff down into a waterfall. I'm sinking towards the bottom of the water's black abyss, and up comes a Freddy glove, and he grabs my ankle, pulls me down, and I look down, and it's Freddy, but half his body's a merman. It's like a skeleton merman, and he probably threw out a classic Freddy pun, and I'm just sinking to the bottom, and he's holding on to me, and I wake up, and I just start laughing to myself like, Freddy's back. And that was a while ago now. I'm still waiting for him. I'm still waiting for Freddy to come back.
That's incredible. Wow. Oh my God.
I think he just wrote the next Nightmare sequel.
That's actually that vision of Freddy as a half mer Freddy. A merman, a mer terror. I'll tell you what, like that's one that people can go to easily. You know, that's designed to terrorize your mind. And for a child, that idea, again, just like what we talked about with aliens and possession and things like that, the idea of somebody coming into your dreams, your, safe, unknown space, that's just crazy. Did you guys ever have vivid dreams or have vivid dreams?
All the time. I mean, I remember having a Freddy nightmare when I was a kid, but it was really, really simple. It was nighttime. I was at the house I grew up in, which had a huge yard. And basically I was standing on the edge of the yard facing like this big tree that was in the yard. And like the silhouette of Freddy just ran at full speed across the yard, right up into my face, and then said something, and I woke up. And that was enough for me.
Oh, yeah. That's terrible.
I was a big baby. I didn't watch a lot of that stuff.
You're like, not happening.
I was a chicken.
I used to have this thing, which has really nothing to do with movies, but I used to have this thing where I would dream like images, and I would at least remember images, and like it would be the most mundane thing, like a hallway with a person in the foreground type of thing. And this might have happened like 3 times, but I thought it was like this weird anomaly. And then like I'd wake up, and the next day I would be going through my day, and that moment would happen in front of me. I'd be walking down the hallway at school, and somebody would walk in front of me, like, oh, I saw that, I don't know if that speaks, into my madness in some weird way. But I also had this weird period where I felt like I could control my dreams. Like I could consciously know that I was in a dream state, and
lucid dreaming, that's called.
Make things happen. Like that was something that I actually wrote a loose pilot on, the idea of like being able to harness that space, which has been done a million times. But that used to fascinate me as a kid, because I felt like I was tapping into that somehow for that period of time that I felt like I could do it,
Prepare yourself for the most intensely shocking motion picture of our time. Nightmare, the motion picture everyone is talking about.
Hello? Hello, Steve?
From the man who terrified you in Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th, special effects director Tom Savini, now comes Nightmare.
Kathy? Kathy?
Terror will surround you. to survive the night. Nightmare. Scream, but no one can help you.
Listen to me, George. It's only a dream, and dreams can't hurt you. Are you there, George?
Daddy! Dad!
George, don't hang up!
Where do you go? There's no place to hide. Escape alive. No one under 17 will be admitted. From 21st Century Distribution, coming soon.
So that was a really fun one. What's his name again?
Albert Mariotti. He was the guy who told us the story about being asked to cry so that they could get in to see Jurassic Park at a drive-in.
Albert, I have to thank you because I mentioned it on the podcast. If you're a regular listener, I literally stole that story of you forcing or having you forced to cry to be able to get into the drive-in into the children's storybook that we're working on. So hats off. I'm going to literally credit you. What else we got, Mark?
Well, we have from our good friend, Mr. Gene Beretta. No relation to the Robert Blake 70s cop show. We have a message that I have not listened to that goes a little something.
Hey guys, it's Gene Beretta. I'm following up the conversation about scary movie moments. Mine didn't happen when I was a kid, but I think it's worth sharing anyway. And spoiler alert, I was in a theater watching M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, and this guy sitting in front of me kept distracting me from the movie by pushing his seat back and hitting my knees. And he didn't realize it, of course. So I knew at some point I had to say something. So we're watching the scene when Mel Gibson is in the neighbor's house walking up to the door to see if there's an alien behind it. And I wasn't really paying attention because I was trying to figure out the best way to approach this guy. So I leaned forward and gently tapped him on the shoulder just as the alien claw sprang out from under the door. And the guy screamed and almost levitated. The perfect timing, and I wish I could say I planned it that way.
That was a little William Castle action in the theater that Gene provided that guy with.
That
a little 4D.
Amazing. I love it. We love Gene, first off, and I have to say, Signs is my mom's favorite modern movie. She loves that movie so much, and like, I remember seeing it in the theater with her, and it was so effective on her. She's the type that literally will like squeal in her seat. You know what I mean? So it had her right on the edge. It was perfect.
I think it's funny too, because when we were talking about scary movies, I think it's your perspective of it too. You know, a lot of people think of like those slasher kind of movies. I never would have thought of Signs until all of a sudden he said it. I'm like, wow, Jeff and I went and saw it in the movie theater. And when that alien like comes walking across when the kids are, and he's going, "Vominos, children, vominos!" And he's telling them to get away from the TV so you can see this alien, and it comes across the screen, like, and you jump.
Oh,
you know,
so good.
You know, and when he cuts its fingers off and stuff. Like,
I've seen it probably 100 times, because my mom loves it so much, and it is. I think that was going off of, and Mark can speak on it. I think that was going off of kind of the Bigfoot footage, simple brush across the camera.
Oh, absolutely.
It was enough to freak you out. Like, is that what they look like? You know, because that kind of feels like what it would be. Like if somebody were to catch a, you know, especially at the time that movie was out, if somebody were to catch an alien on camera, it would be something as simple as that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, terrifying. That for me is still my number one is Fire in the Sky, which we talked about, and the idea of aliens, you know. So we got to bring back Alien Weekend. We did it with E.T. and Mac and me. I think was the last time that we did it.
We had talked about Alien Invasion Weekend, and I think that sort of morphed into the Thing double feature. Remake double take, which is a brilliant series that can go forever anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, the Alien Invasion movies, we threw a lot of titles around And it just, a lot of times between the beginning of an idea and show day, things kind of morph a bit.
Totally.
That was all the voicemail messages that we have, but we do encourage anybody to keep sending us their favorite scary movies. It lets you record about 59 seconds at a time. So if you need to take multiple swings at it, just I'll cut them together. Nobody will ever know you did it in multiple segments. But that's anchor.fm/Mahoning Drive-In, and then just click on the message button.
Where's everybody going? To the refreshment center. It's everybody's favorite spot for delicious, tasty food, from a snack to a full meal. Drinks, coffee, hot chocolate, and ice-cold drinks of all flavors, plus all the extras, including gum, ice cream, candy. Make your evening at this drive-in even more enjoyable. The refreshment stand has everything to make your visit here a pleasant one. Why not get something now?
So I know this will come out after the season ends. It has been such an amazing season, and every chance that we get, we want to thank everybody who's taken the Mahoning into their heart. This has been beyond a legendary season, a challenging season for all of us, physically, mentally, for the business on personal levels. So this feels like a much needed little breather as we go into the off season. But since we have Beth here, and she's somebody who, began as a fan of the Mahoning and saw a lot of our annual events born, I'm working on, as everybody will be a part of, the calendar for the 2022 season. Now, we've started a couple new annuals this year. We have some annuals that people will expect to come back. But Mama Beth, what's your favorite annual that we do, as far as what do you look forward to, whether it's on a fan level or an employee level?
Oh, Universal Monsters, always. Although I did miss it this season because we went away on vacation. So
that's right. That was your 1 weekend off of the year.
It was. And when I saw the pictures of James in that outfit of the Wolfman, I almost cried because I was missing it.
I feel your pain. That's the worst part. When I was running the vineyard, a lot of our festivals would fall on weekends. So it was a real juggle for me to, run out, be somewhere, or sometimes not be at the theater for a big event. And it's almost like I'm missing out on all the fun. Mark, I'm sure you can relate with that.
Well, in the past, more so. Yeah. When I was living 6.5 hours away, I couldn't be there as often as I can now. But even the weekends I'm not there, I see the pictures and you're like, oh, you never know when that magic moment is going to happen, when some customer will show up in costume or show up with a vehicle straight out of one of the movies. Or, I mean, a lot of this stuff is a surprise to us as much as it is to your fellow moviegoers. I think one of my favorites is, it's really hard to say. I love the really weird, obscure stuff that I never had a chance to see when it first came out. So I lean more toward like the Schlockoramas and things like that.
Yeah,
but
a lot of people's
Universal Monsters is great because none of us ever had the chance to see most of these movies in the theater. And we don't just play Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, although this year we did, but we play all the different sequels and things that most theaters would never play. So it's really exciting to be able to just immerse yourself in that stuff. I mean, Camp Blood is fun because of all the extra things that Exhumed does with the tug of war, and this year the pizza eating contest and all the camp themed games. It's hard to just, for me, land on one annual event, but it might be Schlockorama for me, actually.
I love that. Yeah, well, that's the craziest thing with our calendar now, even kind of loosely putting the skeleton together, is we have so many established events and create a lot of events that make sense to bring back. It fills out pretty quickly, and finding the space to fill that in, plus the wedding rentals that we have and specialty events that we have and blah blah blah. It's just like it's like a little game of Tetris as we make it all fit.
So speaking of, regular events that we have, we do our monthly Patreon screenings. And before we started recording today, Beth had brought up something about the last Patreon screening that was sort of a fun, interesting, something you don't see every day in an indoor theater. If you wanted to talk about that.
Oh, the film and how it was, but it was moisture damage. Yes. So you got a lot of that like white flicker up on the screen. And when I walked in, the projectors, oh my gosh, those poor projectors, you could hear it. It was making like a clicking noise, almost like a, I guess because Virgil, you were explaining to me that the emulsion, on the film gets wet and it sticks to itself. Right. Correct? And what the projector is trying to do is literally, I guess, peel the film apart from each other. And we did have a couple of sections in it where the film actually wound up getting burnt and it split.
Yeah.
Which, if you've never seen a film get burnt before, it's terrifying and it's fascinating.
It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, because you're literally like, it's like the death of a cell. You know, it really is like.
Oh, it's so true.
It is. I think we had seen it once before when Jeff and I had come to one of the events. I think it was like that Euro shock horror one that you guys had done many, many years ago.
Right.
It was very interesting to see. I was actually standing outside when it happened and I was like, oh my gosh, this didn't just happen.
Well, maybe people don't know, but for our Patreon screenings, we dig into our vaults, which a lot of the films that we have in the vault have been rescued and may not have been played since they've been rescued. In a lot of cases, coming from damp basements or literally flooding situations, they might not be in the best condition. Robert did inspect this film that we're speaking on, and the thought was, it seems like it's good enough to run. So I think we got through the first 2 reels, no problem. Definitely the water damage was clear with, like Beth said, kind of the white spotting jumping all over the screen. But once we hit that 3rd and 4th reel, it was like the projectors were fighting, film was snapping. And really what happens with a film burn is the film will snap, one piece of film will be left not moving through the projector, but left stuck, and the light beam burns right through it because of the heat. But it is something when you see on a screen, it's beautiful. And the amount of people that from that screening came in and said, you know how long I've been waiting to see a film burn?
You know how long we've been thankful it hasn't happened.
Just like so excited.
I think it was Mark that was there actually viewing the screening, came in and was showing me pictures. Like he got multiple pictures of it when it happened. It was beautiful. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it was sad because even with the water damage on the film itself, the color was so nice on that film. It was just, It was sad.
It's the weirdest thing how it works, because it's pieces of the actual image just start peeling off and going away, and it doesn't affect the rest of the picture, but it's like a weird anomaly.
And to be clear, we don't normally show to paying audiences films that look terrible and are ready to burn it at a given moment. It happens once in a great while, but generally the film is inspected to make sure that doesn't happen. But for the Patreon shows, we're pulling these films out of our vault, and we tell our subscribers these are what we call grindhouse prints, so they may have some imperfections and things. And for the most part, they are inspected, but they haven't been projected by us before. So we're all experiencing this for the first time together. And that was certainly the one really bad print we've run out of the 4 or 5 of these Patreon shows we've done. They've been in actually surprisingly good shape considering how they were stored. And everybody got the Reader's Digest condensed version of that film that night, because it would jam and burn and Jeff would just dump to the other reel, the next reel, and it would play for a while. And then that wound up happening. So it happened a few times. Due to the nature of the film we were watching, it didn't really hurt the story at all, funny enough. Luckily, we had planned it to be a final double feature instead of the single feature. So the second feature ran perfectly. There was water damage for a few seconds on one reel. Otherwise, it looked great. But it was an interesting. People did say how much they enjoyed that experience. They said the damage added to sort of the gritty and grottiness of the film we were watching. And it's just the kind of experience you literally don't get at an indoor digital presentation anymore, because it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's what we hear over and over again. It's especially with the Patreon. Those are our quote unquote insiders who really appreciate the inside look of how we run the business, and certainly how the art of 35 millimeter works. These are the same people that were, moved to tears when Jeff went out of his way to show a couple minutes of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly print and talk through that. It's a love for what we do that I think no other theater would even want to show behind the curtain, but take the time to kind of show the flaws when things jump out like that. It's funny because I'm thinking about the Patreon screenings. My favorite memory of this season comes from a Patreon screening. We were showing a kung fu movie, not to be mentioned, and we had heat lightning going on. And it's one of those things where there's a total blur between the screen and reality. And watching this classic kung fu title with perfect conditions of the heat lightning, it was beautiful.
It was like
so
strobe
beautiful.
lights in the clouds behind the screen, but no thunder. So just these puffy white flashes, but no sound. It was really, really interesting.
Each year, 10,000 tourists visit Ocean Beach. They come to swim, to go boating, or just to lie in the summer sun. But this summer, Ocean Beach has attracted something else. American International presents Tentacles. It slept until man disturbed it. Then it woke with a fury no man could control. Tentacles, a giant octopus with 8 writhing arms, deadlier than the claws of a tiger. 8 tons of bone-crunching terror that tears apart a quiet seaside community. Tentacles, starring John Huston, Shelley Winters, Bo Hopkins, Claude Akins, and Henry Fonda. Tentacles, a fight to the death between the mighty jaws of a killer whale and the awesome power of a giant octopus. No sea monster of myth or legend is half so deadly as one that actually exists. Tentacles, the most gripping suspense you will ever experience. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
So the youth crew at the drive-in have shared with me and other people their deep, profound belief that the snack bar is haunted. Do you have any official statement to that fact?
I don't think it's haunted. I spend a lot of time in that snack bar by myself, and I have never experienced anything like the kids talk about, things moving, noises. I don't know.
They're convinced.
They are convinced. They talked to Twiggy on the the Ouija board. I'm like, who's Twiggy? I don't know what's going on here. I will say though, Max brought this little ceramic hot dog guy. He bought him at the flea market, and he brought him in, and I unwrapped him out of this bubble wrap, and I picked him up, and I said, he's adorable, and the light went out. And he looked at me and I'm like, this thing's possessed. You need to take it away right now. And it wasn't that the ghosts of the drive-in were there. It was that this hot dog ceramic guy was possessed. Like, get him out of here. But he's currently sitting in an aluminum foil hot dog wrapper on the shelf, and it's the bathroom pass when the kids have to go to the bathroom. So
that's amazing.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
Well, this has been an awesome time getting a different perspective to what we do here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. And we have a ton of amazing plans for the off season, including virtual screenings, which we want the whole staff to be involved with. And again, like Mark said earlier, if you guys want to chime in, let us know your favorite concession specials of the year, or shower Mama Beth with some love. Feel free to do that. Jump on over. And this makes total sense for me to plug the Patreon. It's a great way to stay in contact with us in the off season, as well as support us as we move into the 2022 season. God, time flies, guys. Time flies. All right. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for everything that you do. And to our fans, we'll see you guys on the next episode. And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field. And most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.